Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing Bon Jovi, the good, the bad, and the disappointing. Now, what's good, what's bad, and what's disappointing is probably going to be obvious once I start talking about my history with Bon Jovi and the albums that they have released. So let's get into it. Now, their first album came out in 1984, but my first exposure to Bon Jovi actually happened in 1986 when I heard You Give Love a Bad Name, which was the opening, which was the first single from the album Slippery When Wet. So Slippery When Wet, get that one out here. Very well known album, and so it was a big hit. You Give Love a Bad Name was a big hit. Then Living on a Prayer was released. That was even bigger. Wanted Dead or Alive, very successful as well. But yeah, when I heard You Give Love a Bad Name, that was really my first sort of hard rock or heavy metal band that I'd heard that I really liked. So I went out and I got the album and loved the album, and it got me interested in hard rock and metal, and like, oh, okay, well, Bon Jovi, they're like a hard rock band. I'd see them in magazines, which were like, Metal Edge and Kerrang and those sort of magazines, Metal Hammer, and I'd see other bands as well. Hit Parader, that was a popular magazine that I looked at back in those days. So I'd look at those magazines and go, well, who are these Motley Crues and Rats and Dokken? So then I started checking them out as well. So it kind of got me into that sort of music. So really successful album for them. You Give Love a Bad Name was co-written with Desmond Child, so they brought Desmond Child in to do some songwriting with them for the first time. Up to that point, he had written with a few other artists before, quite well known for having written with Kiss. He really helped. He also co-wrote Living on a Prayer, some of the other songs on Slippery When Wet as well. Interesting thing about You Give Love a Bad Name, Desmond Child said that the idea for the chorus came from a song he wrote for Bonnie Tyler called If I Was a Woman and You Were a Man. I think that's how it went, which a very similar type chorus arrangement. So check that out if you haven't. But just a really great album. I like pretty much all the songs on here. Probably, never been a big fan of the Bon Jovi ballads. There's a few exceptions, but most of the time, not a big fan. I liked Wonder Dead or Alive, but Never Say Goodbye and Without Love I could do without. Now, there were some B-sides that did not make the album, and if those tracks had made the album, and maybe you got rid of Never Say Goodbye Without Love, then it would be pretty much, and also Social Disease, I'm not that big a fan of that song. Got rid of those three songs. You could have put on Borderline. Now, this is Japanese only release called Borderline, but it's got one of the tracks is the non-album track Borderline. There was also some other tracks that didn't make the album, and I've got a CD here which is the Slippery When Wet outtakes, and there's quite a few songs on this. This is Slippery When Wet outtakes. There's quite a few songs on here that they recorded that didn't make the album. Now, Edge of a Broken Heart is a B-side, so they could have put that on there. And then there's other really good songs. This is, if you can ever track this one down, it's probably online somewhere. But it's, the outtakes, so songs that didn't make the album. And there's other songs I would have probably preferred. But they had a good collection of songs when they got together to record Slippery When Wet. Of course, the story is they got some people together. I think they took them to a pizza place. They had some pizzas. They played them the songs that they had, demos that they had put together that were potentially going to be on the album, and they helped them choose the songs that made the album. How much of that is true and how much influence they actually had, I don't know, but that's the story. But anyway, either way, a really great album, and with lots of good songs on it, and it really made them a household name. Now, so for me, hearing Slippery When Wet then got me interested in hard rock and metal bands, metal more further down the line, but definitely those hard rock bands, and I was really pleasantly surprised to then find out that, there's two more Bon Jovi albums that came out before Slippery When Wet. So I thought, well, I really love Slippery When Wet, so I've got to go and check those out. So they had Bon Jovi in 1984. And this had a minor hit, Runaway. Like, for me, living in New Zealand, it wasn't a hit in New Zealand. I'd never heard of Bon Jovi prior to 86, but I think in America it was a minor hit. Runaway, but my favourite song from this album would be Roulette. Nice riff by Richie Sambora on that one. And there's no doubting that, Richie, certainly in the 80s, as a guitarist, I think he's quite underrated. But you can see that he can let rip just like a lot of those other well-known guitarists from the 80s, just as well as anyone else. And yeah, I love the riff on Roulette, but also other good songs that Breakout. That opens up opens up side 2, track 1 on side 2, which sounds very similar to Spellbound by a group called Triumph. I think both songs came out about the same time, so I'm not sure whose idea it was first, or maybe it's coincidence, but very similar. But actually, everything on side 2 is really good. Couple of ballads, again, not that big a fan of. Love Lies and She Don't Know Me, which actually is a cover song. But the rest's really good. Now the follow-up, 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. I think they gave it this name because that's the temperature that rock melts. Really good album. Some people don't like it, I don't think, as much. It probably didn't get the positive reviews that the debut had got. But I do like it. Especially, again, this would be like the debut. I like side 2 more. Every track on side 2 for me is great. Especially Hardest Part is the Night. That was one of the singles. It's a great song. Again, Richie on guitar, I think sounds great. In and Out of Love was one of the singles. That opens up side 1. It's a good song, but then the rest on side 1, not so good. Now, Lance Quinn is the producer on this album, and he produced the debut. But once they got to Slippery When Wet, they stuck with Bruce Fairbairn. Alright. So, first 3 albums I've heard, and Bon Jovi's my favourite band at the time. So, big Bon Jovi fan. And I hear they're about to release a new album. I see the music video for Bad Medicine, which I really liked. Enjoyed the video, enjoyed the song. So I was super excited. This is probably where the disappointing comes in a little bit, because Bon Jovi New Jersey, for me, is just a little bit disappointing. Doesn't have as many killer songs as Slippery When Wet, or even any of the, or doesn't even match up to the first 2 albums either. Like I said, I quite like Bad Medicine. Born to Be My Baby is sort of got all the Bon Jovi type tricks in it that they like to use with the wah wah wahs or the na na nas at the start, and it's a good chorus, but and so Bad Medicine, Born to Be My Baby were 2 of the singles. They had a hit, I think, with I'll Be There For You as well, but again, it's a ballad. Just didn't do a lot for me. I thought there's a lot of songs on side 2, so there's like 7 songs, but a lot of them are, for me, throwaway songs. Love for Sale, Ride Cowboy Ride, and then Wild as the Wind and Stick to Your Guns are pretty. They're just, for me, they're not particularly up tempo type songs. I quite like 99 in the Shade. Again, it's a bit more up tempo. I think at times, like on Blood, he's trying to be a little bit more like Bruce Springsteen, and it's starting to get out of that having less metal kind of a edge to it, more of just a rock, which, hard rock, sure they're a hard rock band, but they definitely had a pop metal kind of influence, but that's starting to go away a little bit more now. They just want to be sort of like a rock band. Living in Sin, another ballad. It opens up with Lay Your Hands on Me, which doesn't match up for me as an opening track to any of their other opening tracks that they've had on their previous album. Let It Rock on Slippery When Wet, I think, is a great song. Great way to kick off the album. Lay Your Hands on Me, not so much for me. So I know some people like this album, but for me, it's a bit of a letdown. So, I thought maybe I'm missing something, but no, it's still, for me, like I said, a couple songs, Bad Medicine, Born to Be My Baby, and 99 in the Shade's okay, but other than that, not a big fan. Now, interestingly, again, just like with Slippery When Wet, they had a lot of songs to choose from, and they could have put some songs on there that I think would have made the album better. Um, I think at one stage it was going to be a two album. I think I'm going to call it Sons of Beaches. I'm not sure though. But yeah, so it's going to be a double album, and yeah, here we go. So I've got this. This is the deluxe version of New Jersey, and disc 2 is called New Jersey: The Sons of Beaches Demos, and it's got songs that were demoed that didn't make the album. And actually, a lot of them, unlike the other demo CD I showed you, where there were lots of great songs that didn't make the album. This one I didn't think actually even had that many other good songs that didn't make the album. But I do like, now, well, maybe it's not on here. I'm sure that doesn't seem to be actually. Oh yeah, well, Lovers War is a B-side, so it did get recorded like it could have been on the album, but it didn't make the album. I think that's a really strong B-side. I would have liked to have seen that on the album. Now, yeah, one song that's not on here, but I'm sure they demoed it for the album is yeah, it's not on here, is it? Rosie. Now that ends up on Richie Sambora's debut solo album, but I had a feeling that they demoed that for New Jersey, and that's a great song. I would like to have seen that on New Jersey, but there we go. Yeah, so this is worth picking up though, because lots of extra bonus tracks, songs that didn't make the album. All right, so and around about after New Jersey came out, then I'm full into the hard rock and metal from the '80s and getting into a whole lot of different bands. So I'm a bit disappointed, and I'm not probably having high expectations of the next Bon Jovi album. And there's some problems within the band, and it seems like maybe actually they may be breaking up. John does his solo album, which is basically, I don't think he wanted to call it a solo album. It was a soundtrack album, but he had a big hit with Blaze of Glory with the title track. So this is Blaze of Glory, and I do quite like Blaze of Glory. I was a bit disappointed with the rest of the songs on the album, but I also thought it's a soundtrack album, so it's not a proper Bon Jovi album, or he's not going for that Bon Jovi sound. So it is what it is. Yeah, but yeah, Blaze of Glory, which was a hit, isn't a bad song. And then so there was so John did his solo album, Richie Sambora did his solo album, and I was actually thinking, because he's got some ripping guitar work on the Bon Jovi albums, maybe this will be a chance for him to really just let go on the guitar. But it's not that heavy, I don't think. I like Ballad of Youth. That's one of the singles. Like I said, Rosie's on here. I think that was initially going to be a Bon Jovi song, or was thought of as a Bon Jovi song at one time. I like that. Other than that, for me, there's not much on here that I get into. It's more of a rock album than a hard rock album or metal album, or with a pop metal album. But it's probably his best album, because he has done some other solo albums since this one, and yeah, they're just, for me, they're barely hard rock. They're not very heavy at all, which is surprising, because I just would have expected him to rip on the guitar a little bit more. But there we go. And it's cool. I mean, I'm sure some people like that album and like his follow-up albums as well. Alright, so that's the solo albums, but yeah, so there's some issues within the band, but they do get back together, and I guess fittingly they call the album Keep the Faith, and I quite like the album cover here, and I like the title, and I like the idea behind the album that they're going to keep the faith and they're going to stick together. This surprised me, I was a bit disappointed with New Jersey. So I didn't have high expectations, and then they come out with this album, which I really liked. So many great songs on here, I believe. I think it's a great way to start off the album. Much stronger than the previous album opener. Keep the Faith, which was my the first song I heard from this album, which I really liked. And that sort of got me thinking, oh, okay, maybe Bon Jovi's still got something going on here. And yeah, so good song. I'll Sleep When I'm Dead I could do without. Again, another ballad, In These Arms I could do without, and Bed of Roses. So a little bit disappointing when they go into that sort of ballady kind of area, but they crank it up again for If I Was Your Mother, which is one of their heavier songs. Great song. And then they open up side two. A bit of a deal was made of the fact that Bon Jovi have put out an 8-minute song, 7 minutes, whatever it is. Very long song. And it's a great song too. Dry County. The rest of the songs on side two are not bad. There's some good songs. Fear I like. And there's a track that didn't make the vinyl copy of this album, Save a Prayer, I think it's called. So it's not on here, but that's a good song too. I really like that song. So, or Say a Prayer, I think it might be good. Yeah. So I'm back in on Bon Jovi. I'm like, yes, these guys are good, and I really like this album. It wasn't as successful as the previous couple of albums had been, I don't think. Certainly starting to lose popularity in America. Grunge is coming in, but I thought it was a good album. So I'm back on the Bon Jovi train there, and wondering what the next album's going to be like. It did take a little while, but in 1995 they released, and I've actually got a copy of it on vinyl these days. And this is again, unfortunately, where the disappointing comes in. So again, I'm kind of enjoying the previous Bon Jovi album, and so I'm starting to get anticipation for the new album is quite high. And I'm hoping for a good album. Now, they had, of course, released Crossroads, which was the best of, and they'd had a hit with the song Always. And the first single from this is This Ain't a Love Song, another ballad. It sort of reminded me of Always, really. I thought, oh yeah, okay, whatever. Bon Jovi ballads, yeah, just skip over those. But, I was hoping that the album was going to have some good songs on it, like Keep the Faith it had. And initially, when I played the first track, I was very hopeful because the first track, Hey God, is one of the heaviest songs Bon Jovi have ever done. Really killer song. But then after that, they just, I don't know, they've just gone to sleep and nothing really gets cranked up like that again throughout the rest of the album. I do like Something to Believe In. Like I said, sometimes I don't mind a slower Bon Jovi song, but when basically there's 14 songs on here, and most of them are slow songs, it's just a bit disappointing. So I was sort of thinking, okay, Hey God's great, so that's probably why I've got this on vinyl, just for that song really, and Something to Believe In I quite like, but I'm a bit surprised I've even got it on vinyl. I've got the reissued when it came out on vinyl, but so that was These Days, and I'm pretty much at the point where there's not too much more to show because they had a bit of a break after These Days. They then have a hit with Crush. It's My Life was one of the singles, which was a bit of a hit, so it was a good comeback for them. I didn't like that album particularly. I didn't mind the single, It's My Life, but there wasn't anything else on the album that I liked, really. A couple of songs that didn't even make the album, that were like bonus tracks. They're not bad, but they're just more of a rock band, I guess, at this point, with lots of ballads on their albums, and any sort of pop metal influences just aren't coming through. Not really even hard rock at times, and quite even more commercial than what they had been. So I'm pretty much thinking, maybe it's all over for Bon Jovi. I'll just keep checking in, and maybe there'll be a good song like It's My Life. I didn't mind. So Bounce came up, and I heard, this album's actually going to be a bit heavier, and it was, and this was good. I really like Bounce. I like the first single, Every Day, and it's like they're starting to rock hard again. The title track Bounce is pretty good. It's quite similar to It's My Life, but also Undivided. I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of I Believe, the track from Keep the Faith. Kind of reminded me of that one. Undivided, I think lyrically is based on the 9/11 incident. And also Open All Night. I quite like that. No, sorry, Hook Me Up. Yeah, Hook Me Up, which starts off side 2 or side B on this album is good as well. So there's some good songs on here. Again, you still got your what I would consider your boring ballads, but there's enough on here that for me to like. And so yeah, I'm happy to have that album in my collection, and I do like that album. But then from that album onwards, it's bad. It's just forgettable. There are. Well, I'm probably being a bit harsh on. I'll show you the album. Here it is. Have a Nice Day. Have a Nice Day. That song itself, the title track, is okay, and I also liked Last Man Standing. And again, I think there's a couple of songs that were bonus tracks that weren't that bad, but yeah. So that one, I've got that on CD, but that's the last Bon Jovi album I've got in my collection. The rest since then, I just haven't bothered with it. Unfortunately, on this album, they had a hit with like a country song, and the next album they went a bit country, and they've never really got back to those sort of more hard rock songs. And that's cool. I mean, that happens. I think they've got so many great songs that for me, they're still going to be a band that I would say I like, but not recent Bon Jovi. And there's been a few albums out recently with a new guitarist, and obviously it's John Bon Jovi's band, and I don't know exactly what the issues were there between him and Richie, but I don't know if that didn't make any difference as far as the quality of albums were concerned. I don't think, because the ones that Richie's been on prior to him leaving weren't any better. So yeah, and I still keep checking out new Bon Jovi when it comes out, just in case. Hey, maybe there'll be something on there I like. But so far, like I said, since Have a Nice Day, that's pretty much been it. I've got a few other things in my collection. I've got some. I've got an unofficial live album here, Tokyo Road, which is good because it contains tracks that were recorded in '85, so the first tracks from their first two albums, which I really like. I've got some 12-inch singles. This is Wanted Dead or Alive, which is cool because it's got an acoustic version of the song, and it's also got Edge of a Broken Heart on it. It's one of the good B-sides. I've got a few other things, but I think I'll leave it at that. So that's my Bon Jovi, the good, the bad, and the disappointing. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you later. Bye.